All right, today we're going to break down what might be the single most influential letter ever written, the Apostle Paul's Epistle to the Romans. This thing is an absolute theological powerhouse, and we're going to get right into it. Okay, so to really get Romans, you got to understand the guy who wrote it, the Apostle Paul, and the massive stakes he was facing. This wasn't just some friendly letter. Nope. This was his magnum opus, his most ambitious, detailed argument, and he was sending it to a church he'd never even met. Why? Well, that's the big question. I mean, just look at this timeline. This isn't a guy who sat still. We're talking more than 20 years of constant travel, planting churches, getting into arguments, just relentlessly pushing forward. And it all culminates right here, in Corinth. This is where he sits down to write Romans. And get this, he knows his next stop is Jerusalem. And there's a very real chance he's not coming back from that trip. So, that brings us to the million-dollar question, right? Why? Why write your longest, most theologically dense letter to a bunch of people you've never even met? What was driving him? This question really is the key to unlocking the entire book. Well, it turns out Paul was playing both offense and a defense. Offensively, he saw Rome as the perfect new home base, a launch pad for his next big mission, all the way out to Spain. But defensively, he was facing a really grim possibility. He knew Jerusalem was a huge risk. So this letter, it's like his doctrinal last will and testament. It's his way of making sure that his complete understanding of the gospel was written down safe and sound in the heart of the empire, just in case the worst happened to him. All right, so here's where Paul's argument really begins. And he doesn't start with the good news, not at all. Before he can offer a solution, he has to convince everyone that there's a massive, universal problem. He starts not with the cure, but with the diagnosis. A diagnosis that applies to every single person on the planet. And man, the case he builds is absolutely airtight. He basically puts the entire world on trial. First up, the Gentiles, the non-Jewish world. He says, look, you can see God's power and divine nature written all over creation, but you ignore it. Then he turns to his own people, the Jews. He says, you were given God's special law, but you don't actually follow it. So you have one group with the book of nature, the other with the book of the law, and guess what? Both are equally guilty. No one gets off the hook. So the bottom line is, nobody has an excuse. You can't claim you didn't know, and you can't claim you have some special status because you have the law. Paul's point is sharp. Having the rule book doesn't make you a winner, especially if you're not playing by the rules. The verdict is in, and it's unanimous. Everyone is without excuse. And here's the genius part. To really drive this devastating point home, he doesn't just give his own opinion. No way! He quotes their own scriptures back to them. He pulls from the Hebrew Bible to prove his point, saying, see, this isn't my idea. It's been right here all along. The problem of sin is total, it's absolute, and nobody gets a pass. And this is where he drops a bombshell, a real twist in the argument. That very law, the thing many of his fellow Jews were relying on to make them righteous, Paul says it was never designed to save anyone. Think of it like a spiritual X-ray. It's an incredible tool for showing you exactly where the break is, for revealing the extent of the disease of sin. But an X-ray can't set the bone. It can diagnose the problem, but it has zero power to fix it. So if everyone is trapped, if the law only makes the problem clearer, what hope is there? Well, now that Paul has cornered everyone, he finally pivots. He's ready to reveal God's radical solution. And it's something totally unexpected. A solution that works completely outside the box of rules, regulations, and trying to be good enough. The heart of this solution is a word you gotta understand: justification. Now, this is a legal term straight out of a courtroom. It doesn't mean God makes you a righteous person. No, it means God declares you righteous. Imagine a judge looking at a guilty person and banging the gavel, saying not guilty. Not because the person didn't do it, but because their fine has been paid by someone else. It's a change in your legal standing before God. So how does this work? Paul lays it out step by step. Step 1, we've already established that everyone has sinned. We all fall short. So step 2, righteousness can't be something we earn. It just can't. It has to be a free gift. Step 3, that gift is made possible by what Christ did. And the final, crucial step, how do you receive this gift? Not by works, but through one single channel: faith. That's it. And just in case anyone thought he was making this up, Paul plays his trump card. Abraham, the father of their faith. He points way back in their history, long before the law was ever given to Moses, and asks, how was Abraham made right with God? The answer? He believed God, and it was that faith, that belief, that was credited to him as righteousness. Paul's point is clear. Faith has always been the way. He then boils down all of human history into this powerful contrast, a tale of two men. You've got Adam, whose one act of disobedience dragged everyone down into a reality of sin and death. But then you have Christ, whose one act of perfect obedience opens up a brand new reality, one of righteousness and life for anyone who believes. And this is maybe the most mind-blowing part of the argument. God's solution isn't just a one-for-one fix. It's not like sin is here and grace just matches it. Paul says, no. Where sin increased, God's grace multiplied all the more. It's like sin dug a hole and grace came in and didn't just fill the hole, it built a mountain on top of it. It's an overwhelming, super abundant grace. Okay, so Paul knows exactly what you might be thinking right now. If we're saved by grace, if it's a free gift, and if grace is this super abundant thing, well, why not just keep on sinning so we can get more grace? It's the logical question, right? And Paul sees it coming from a mile away and tackles it head on. This is a serious challenge to his whole argument. I mean, if he can't answer this, the whole thing falls apart. And his answer is brilliant, because it completely reframes what it even means to be a Christian. He shows that the question itself comes from a total misunderstanding of what salvation actually is. His answer is an emphatic, absolutely not. For Paul, faith isn't just you agreeing with a set of facts. It's you being so united with Jesus that you actually participate in his death and resurrection. Your old self, the you that was a slave to sin, is dead and buried. So the question, should we keep sinning, makes as much sense as asking a dead person if they'd like to go back to their old stressful job. It's just impossible. You're a new person now. So he lays out these two opposing ways to live. You've got the old self, trapped in the flesh, a slave to sin, and its paycheck is death. But then there's the new self, living in the Spirit. You've been freed from that slavery. You're not just under new management. You're a citizen of a whole new country, empowered by the Spirit to live in a totally new way. And this is the peak of the mountain, the grand finale of this whole section of the argument. Therefore, there is now no condemnation. For anyone who is in Christ, yeah, the struggle might still be real, but the verdict, the cosmic legal verdict of condemnation, it's gone. Wiped from the record, permanently. The case is closed. And living in this new reality comes with some incredible benefits. We're not talking about abstract ideas here. You get real peace with God, not hostility. You get constant open access to his grace. You get hope for the future that's rock solid. You're wrapped in God's love, and you've been delivered from that final, terrible wrath. It changes everything. Then Paul just launches into one of the most soaring, powerful declarations you'll find anywhere. He basically says, go ahead, try to find something that can separate a believer from God's love. He lists everything you can think of: death, life, angels, demons, the present, the future, anything and everything in all creation. And he says none of it can do it. The number of things that can break that bond? A big, fat 0. So we've seen Paul's incredible argument unfold. He takes us from a universal problem that traps everyone to a radical solution found only in Christ. He moves us from condemnation to justification, from being slaves to sin to being alive to God. But he leaves us, and he leaves you, with a massive question to wrestle with. What does it actually look like, day to day, to live as someone who is dead to sin but truly alive to God?